30 years have since passed, and while a whole lot has changed, the song remains the same. The Wolf still rocks.
Hey there, it's Brian Ellis, Morning Show 101.5 The Wolf. We continue our video series celebrating the Wolf's 30th birthday. We launched the station February 14th, 1992. This guy was along for the ride during the 30-year period. He is the current president of the Peterborough Petes, but back in the day, he was on air with the Wolf, and we called him Dave Morgan. Hello, Dave. How are you?
Yeah. I'm great, Brian. Thanks for including me in this. Yeah, you're bringing back the memories already.
It's
1992, February 14th. I remember the launch.
So take us back. When did you join the Wolf?
Well, first of all, I started in radio back in 98, and it was Chex Radio at the time, as you probably remember, the AM station. And we used to dream about the station downstairs, 101.5, was called Music of Your Life. It was elevator music. And we used to dream about, oh man, someday we should turn it into a rock station. It was, yeah, that'll never happen. So I had actually worked at a couple of radio stations locally. I'd gotten out of it. And then I got a call from Bob Harris one day, and he said, you remember, we'd hang around and have a couple of beers and talk about that rock station downstairs? Well, we're going to do it. And we're going to launch it on February 14th. Do you want to come back and go on air? And, I jumped at the chance. So I guess officially I started in February 14th, 1992. I didn't work that day. Of course, I think it launched at 6 o'clock. If I remember, we were down at Greener's restaurant on Chemong Road. And I was there for the launch party. And I think I maybe worked the next day. I'm not sure. But yeah, I worked for 4 years till 1996. It was a blast.
Yeah. So Casey's was the name of the bar, if you remember. Casey's on Chemong Road is where we had the launch party. Is for me what stuck out about that night, and probably you too, is it was just such an event that the city of Peterborough was ready for.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the Wolf was welcomed in this area in Central Ontario, Peterborough, and actually, I think we were more popular in the outskirt town. And I remember most of my best memories actually come from the road shows outside of the regular on air in the studio. And that's where we got to meet all the fans from places like Campbellford and Havelock and Brighton. And oh yeah, we had some good times. But yes, the Wolf was extremely popular right off the top. And 30 years, man, 30 years. Well, first of all, I feel old, but 30 years later, still rocking.
You feel old. I'm still here.
All right, it adds an extra 5 years when you stay. So yeah.
That's right. Let's chat about the road show. So, for anyone who's newer to the Wolf and listening and watching any of these videos, they may not have been around the area when we had the Wolf road shows, but we would hire a sound crew. They would put up speakers, and we would basically DJ a big party, and the crowds were huge, massive.
Yeah, the biggest one I remember was down at the Trenton Air Base, and Jay Sharp and myself went down with Kerry Walker. And the first time I was asked to do a road show, I said, "Well, I don't. What is it I'm supposed to do?" And they said, "Well, Kerry will come and pick you up at the house. He'll take you to the show. You get on stage, spend the whole night hyping people, just party with them, and then they'll bring you home, and we'll pay you a couple of $100." I thought, that sounds like the best job in the world. And
sign me up.
It paid more than actually being on air. And yeah, the crowds were phenomenal. It was so cool to interact with all the people. But that's the biggest one that I remember was down there at the Trenton Air Base. And it was a lot of fun. So yeah, that brings back memories.
Yeah. And I know, tell us. So the name, like Dave Morgan, is what you went by. I know it's Dave Pogue, your real name. So that was just a name that you had for radio, correct?
Yeah, I mean, when I started in Czechs radio, when I was hired by Gord Gibb, who I
Hmm.
still see Gord lots at the Memorial Center. He's our in-house announcer, of course, for the Peterborough Petes games. And Gord hired me, and he said to me, "What do you want your name to be?" And I had never been in radio before. Didn't go to school for radio. That thought I had a name. He said, "Nah, you don't want to go by your real name, particularly when you're a resident of Peterborough." So at the time, he said, "Just give me a name." And I was a big Pittsburgh Pirate fan at the time, and I went with Dave Parker. You remember the Cobra?
Okay.
And I thought, well, I'll go with Dave Parker. That was my early on name. When I got to the Wolf, I went with Dave Morgan. It happens to be my middle name, David Morgan Pogue.
I
So
never knew
I
that.
went with Dave Morgan, and because it was easy to remember, and yeah, that was my alias through my years at the Wolf.
Interesting, interesting. And you and I have chatted. You know, I personally, not that anything happened that shouldn't have happened at the road shows, but I'm so glad that when we launched the Wolf, it wasn't social media and people taking videos and like it was because I don't think I want to see any of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's just say we had some fun there. Sometimes not near as much fun as the people that were actually at the road shows. I believe I may have launched a little game called "What Would You Do for a Wolf T-shirt?" It always amazed me what people might do for a $10 Wolf T-shirt. But
Yeah.
my goodness, was it entertaining? And yeah, you're right. There was no social media back in the day, was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I chatting with, especially announcers like yourself that were with the Wolf when we first launched 30 years ago, it is something that we'll never experience again in our lifetime because it was such a special time back in '92 in the early '90s. Not only Peterborough, but as you say, outside of Peterborough, it was amazing.
Well, being a huge fan, lifelong fan of classic rock. I mean, that was I mean, I grew up with loving the Who and Pink Floyd, and we couldn't get it here. We had to listen to CFTR AM out of Toronto. You couldn't get it, depending on where you lived and in the outskirts. And it was, to have that music first of all, and then to have the family that we worked with. I mean, that's the best part. I mean, we had a we used to play ball games together and go out and in the public and the road shows, of course, that we talked about, the remotes at the malls and different things that we did. But we did it as a group, and we had it was a family. I mean, I remember
Mhm.
Johnny Eaton and yourself and Johnny Mack and of course Jay Sharp, and I mean, we just had a lot of fun, and we built some memories. And one of my favorite one of the stories that I never forget, and I've told it a million times, is I wasn't one to read my memos when I came in, because half the time I would work on the weekends. I would do Saturdays and Sundays, and I'd come in, and so half the time my memo box would be full, and I didn't feel like reading memos. So anyway, one day and my buddies were always calling me up on the air and wanting a song or just being goofy on the air, and calling me up and bothering me at the station. So one day I pick up the phone and hi, the Wolf. Yeah, it's Larry Gowan. And I said, yeah, sure it is. Is this John? And he's like, no, sorry, it's Lawrence Gowan. I'm like, whatever. Eric, is that you? Lay off, man. And the guy's like, no, I think I'm supposed to be calling in. Are you doing a 24-hour radio marathon at the mall or something? I was asked to call in and do a cut in, and I'm like, oh crap,
Oops.
this is Lawrence Gowan.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
said, just
Gowan.
one sec.
Yeah.
I put him on hold. I run down. There's a memo in my box that I read, if I had read it when I came on air. It says, throughout your shifts this weekend, you're going to get various calls from Canadian rock musicians that want to do a cut in. I can't remember who it was down at the mall, but of course that was that was a funny time, and I had to apologize to Larry Gowan, and I've seen him a couple of times since, obviously playing in Peterborough, and then once with Styx, and I've been able to bring up that story to him in the past. But that was a funny time when I was giving the gears to Larry Gowan.
Oh my God, that's a great story. I never knew that story. That is fantastic. Listen, great chatting with you. It's nice to. Yeah, I've really been enjoying chatting with the former staff and current staff about the Wolf. It's it's been a lifelong passion for me doing what I do, and it's great to hear stories from folks like yourself.
I don't know if you remember the party. I think it might have been my birthday. I can't remember, in my basement at the house, where yourself and Jay and Johnny Eaton and you brought the your guitars, and we had the drums set up, and
I remember
everybody
that.
sang, even somebody like me who can't sing. Yeah,
Yep.
that was what I missed the most from that group. So good on
Yep.
you to get these videos going for 30 years, and pass on my hellos to all the gang that worked back then. It was fun, and to this day, I still listen to the Wolf every day. It's a part of me.
I appreciate that. Dave Pogue, back in the day, he was Dave Morgan. Dave, the current president of the Peterborough Petes, and was on air with us right from the get go. Dave, thanks so much. I appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.